Welcome back, YouTube. Dirk Dane here with another character build video. We are on the enchanting side of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, looking at a particularly interesting wizard, School of Wizardry, that I don't see used very often, but maybe together we might be able to find a way to make it functional. So let us get into it. Fortuna Fatrix is the character that I have built and ready to present to you today. You can see the brilliant art on here, both token and full art style from our friend Jay at imtealted on Instagram and DeviantArt. Links are in the description down below. Want to check out her work. So first, we're a wizard. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull up our wizard. We'll do the full breakdown here. So, wizard, particularly enchantment. What this whole build is based around, or what we're trying to capitalize on, is their level 2 feature, Hypnotic Gaze. I will read it here. Starting at 2nd level, when you choose this school, your soft words and enchanting gaze can magically enthrall another creature. As an action, you can choose one creature you can see within 5 feet of you. If the target can see or hear you, it has to make a wisdom saving throw against your wizard spell DC or be charmed until the end of your next turn. The charmed creature's speed is 0 and it is incapacitated, and the creature is visibly dazed. On subsequent turns, you can use your action to maintain the effect, extending the duration till the end of your next turn. However, if you move more than 5 feet away from the creature, if the creature can no longer hear or see you, or if the creature takes damage, that spell effect ends. Once the spell effect ends or the creature succeeds on the initial saving throw, you can't use this feature again on the creature until you finish a long rest. So, a little bit to unpack here. It is one creature within 5 feet of you, makes a wisdom save, they become charmed, and while they're charmed, no movement, no actions. Incapacitated is the creature can take no actions or reactions. This is a very cool ability, and this is what we're trying to capitalize on. So it is a main action to deploy and a main action on subsequent turns to maintain, as long as they don't take damage or someone pulls you away from that individual. The other cool part to this ability is there is no real cooldown. There is a cooldown period here. If the one creature you use it on breaks out of the effect, you can't use it on that creature again. But there's nothing to stop you from in the next encounter, in the next battle, or later on in the day, just looking at somebody else and giving them the hypnotic gaze once again. It just stops working on that particular creature. So you could, in theory, bounce around from monster to monster. This guy passes, so then I'll go to the next guy. I'll go to number B, and then go to number C, and then go to number E. Doesn't matter. The ability itself doesn't have a limitation. The other cool thing is it does not require concentration. That means that you could be concentrating on a different spell, a buff spell, or some other sort of crowd control ability on other monsters, and still use this ability on your other foes. Now, the main issue with this is it uses your action to deploy and action on subsequent turns. But the one interesting piece to this here is they get a saving throw once. After that duration goes by the end of your next turn, if you use your action to make it your next turn, you can, in essence, hold this person indefinitely. As long as you're within 5 feet, they can still hear or see you, and you use your action, they only get one save to be locked down for as long as you're able to maintain that action economy. So the big thing in here is that once we've committed to using this hypnotic gaze, we aren't able to do very much else after that. So that is the main thing that we're going to build around. If we use our action every turn on our hypnotic gaze, what else can we do to help our team? So Fortuna, we have gone ahead and built a custom lineage. This would also work with a variant human. In reality, we want to try to have a feat right away. That is going to give us the most optimal use and be able to have sort of our strategy online at level 2 once we get that feature. You very well could leave it to level 4, but there's another feat that I would recommend in that place. So ultimately, we want to try to have a feat right away. Custom Lineage is sort of our best for a single stat build because we get a +2 in any skill and then a feat. And if our feat also gives us a +1, that means we can have a +3 in intelligence. And that's what we're going to do. The feat that we're going to be taking, Telekinetic. The main piece to here, you do learn Mage Hand as you get +1 to intelligence. You learn Mage Hand. You can cast it without verbal or somatic components, and you have a spectral invisible hand. If you already know the spell, it increases its range by 30 feet, and its spellcasting ability is dependent on which increase you take on the feat. As a bonus action, you can try to telekinetically shove one creature within 30 feet. When you do so, they must succeed on a strength saving throw using your intelligence modifier, so the same as our spell save DC, or be moved up to 5 feet away or towards you. A willing creature can fail this. So as you see, this is utilizing our bonus action. So even if we are locked into a Hypnotic Gaze on a particularly powerful enemy, or just reducing the amount of enemies that are on the board, you can still use that bonus action to manipulate the battlefield by pulling your allies out, or pushing them out of danger, or pulling enemies around if they fail that save. So you're still able to contribute to your team with that bonus action every turn, even though you might be sort of maintaining that Hypnotic Gaze as your main action every turn. With our custom lineage, giving a +2 to intelligence, and our +1 to intelligence from telekinetic, we will be starting our character with a 18 intelligence. And the stat distribution, we will get into that in just a few moments. But we're starting off very powerful with a high DC 14 on our wizard saving throw, as well as our telekinetic push, which is fairly respectable. All right, so for Fortuna, let us actually take a look at some of the roleplay capability. The cool thing about the Enchantment Wizard is the way that the actual description is. It just says that you magically focus on them. You could describe that any number of ways, and one of the ways that I've chosen to do it this way is with a performer, a singer, or it could be a dancer or a jester that with their strange movements hypnotizes somebody into focusing on them alone. But you could easily describe this as a bard that plays music, and the person is compelled to sort of hum along to it or sway with the music. It could be a gyration dance that they can't help but look at the jiggles as you move around. It could even be something simple like a dreamer, where you cast your hands over somebody's eyes and you tell them to sleep. They're stuck in that daze, in that moment, and until you basically release them or something jolts them awake, they're stuck in that sort of dreamscape. Could be something simple like a Vulcan mind meld, where you touch the side of somebody's head and they're brought into their own visions or their own thoughts and trapped there for a time. There are plenty of ways that you could describe that, and that could give you a lot of flavor to your character. Somebody that they may assume is just a bard, but is actually this enchantment. And maybe they've passed themselves off as that sort of charismatic character. For this one, we did go with entertainer as our background to kind of fit into that facade, the showman that we're trying to use as our description, still having magical capabilities. You can see that our standard stat array here, we put the 8 from our standard array into strength, our 10 into wisdom, 12 into constitution, 13 into charisma, 14 into dexterity, and our 15 that turned to 18 into intelligence. You would only benefit if you roll or take a point buy that you can move these around a little bit. I do like the 14 in dexterity for the HP, or for the armor class bump, particularly since we will be using mage armor as some of the bonus that we have here. And it also could come into a multi-class option that's described later on. So this is our level 2 Fortuna. With taking the average HP, we have 12 hit points. So we are very squishy as a wizard normally is. So we're playing a little bit of a dangerous game with having a 12 in our constitution, because while we have to be within 5 feet to use our ability, we don't have a whole lot of hit points to stay there if we start taking aggro from places. The 13 in charisma is mostly just to, be able to do the performance or the persuasion, but there is a multi-class option there as well, so that's why we left the 13 there. So a practical example is this. Say we are in a small 2-man team in this scenario. Maybe we split the party, whatever it is. Bandits have come to attack us, and our Vareth Flame Fist from our human flamethrower build is here, and he's holding off 2 bandits right now. But the bandit captain has gone ahead and presented himself. What we could do on Fortuna's turn is go like this. We move 30 feet into combat range, and then begin to cast our Hypnotic Gaze using 1 action, a DC 14 Wisdom saving throw. Say we go ahead to our bandit, and he rolls a Wisdom save. He rolled a 10. 10 and an 11. But he rolled an 11, which is a fail. Meaning that in this battle between Bandit Captain and 2 bandits, we've already eliminated one of the larger threats. The Bandit Captain is stuck in a daze. Now, Vareth doesn't have to worry about the backline being attacked by this Bandit Captain and can still do battle with these 2 bandit minions here. Now, using my bonus action, I can then still use the telekinetic shove that this bandit needs to make. Strength. He does. So unfortunately, he passed it. So nothing happens there. Alternatively, say we didn't want to move the bandits, but we wanted to give Vareth some breathing room, I could use my bonus action to pull him towards me. Now he's no longer engaged in melee combat with these 2. If he has a ranged weapon, or now he's set up to do a breath attack, where if he wanted to do a 15-foot breath cone from here, he can do it. I'd get both of them. Don't have to worry about any opportunity attacks. Now, in the following turns, you will be stuck using your main action again to keep him into play, but then you can try to push the bandits away or have any other option. But now we've just significantly reduced the threat range. Seeing that the big bad is in a stupor, stuck looking at Fortuna, the bandits are not nearly as dangerous without maybe this piece of the puzzle. So the way this subclass feature would really shine is if you're able to sort of identify what might be a big threat, or in situations where, say there's 2 hill giants coming at you, you could take one of those hill giants and remove them from the situation while the rest of your party member does battle with the last one. Say this bandit captain gets damaged. Maybe Vareth blows some fire on him, and now he's no longer in our stupor situation. There is always an opportunity that if we push him back with our telekinetic, we can just come over here and charm this bandit, because that ability doesn't reset or doesn't lose its capability just on the capability on that bandit captain. We can still have it's still available for us to use on targets other than the one that has already passed or been damaged. So then maybe Vareth can tag out after maybe we kill this guy, and then I'm going to hold this bandit off while Vareth is going to do battle with the bandit captain. It is very cool just to stay Enchantment Wizard, because at 6th level, there is the Instinctive Charm. So if your campaign goes a higher level, or if you're doing a one-shot that involves a higher level character, the 6th level feature is also very cool. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to divert that attack, provided another creature is within that attack's range. The attacker must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, and on a failed save, the attacker must target a creature closest to it, not including yourself or itself. If multiple creatures are close, they're in the charmed condition. Now, they does say that they're incapacitated and dazed, but the charmed condition itself does say it can't attack the charmer or do harmful abilities to the charmer, and then the charmer also has advantage on ability checks to socially interact with the creature. So some DMs may allow you to even sort of interrogate or speak with somebody that's in this dazed state, since they are already charmed by you. But this is a good way to sort of non-lethally deal with that situation. A guard that's outside of a warehouse that you need to break into, you could charm him and have him focus on you with the hypnotic gaze while the rest of your party does the investigation, and you can sort of maintain that guise with them, that you're just outside sort of talking, or having conversation with a friend, or they might look a little visibly dazed, so there is a visual cue there that other guards might be able to pick up on, but you could pass it off as flirting or friend making, whatever is compatible. You would be able to use this for other spells like Charm Person or Dominate Person. These are excellent, just sort of twinning, where you're essentially upcasting at one level for free. If it only targets one person, you by default get hit. It is not invincible, because it is a charmed condition that this has to be. There are a number of creatures that have advantage on things like being charmed, or could be outright immune. Buyer beware, this is not a full stop plan. The nice thing is you still have all your wizard kit, all of your spells that you can do in the situations where you find that you cannot charm them. Other part too is they do have to be able to see or hear you, so certain combinations of like dark vision and silence may interrupt you, or even being shoved or pulled away from the creature because you have to maintain that 5 feet gap. So it's certainly not an infallible ability. This does have roleplay capabilities as well, or out of combat context. If there is a guard that is watching a warehouse you're trying to get into, this is an easy non-confrontational way to say, hey, I'm going to try to charm him. But the charmed condition itself does say it can't attack the charmer or do harmful abilities to the charmer, and then the charmer also has advantage on ability checks to socially interact with the creature. So some DMs may allow you to even sort of interrogate or speak with somebody that's in this dazed state, since they are already charmed by you. And we'll go over the spells that we picked for her as well. So these are the spells that I picked at level 2. There might be some other ones that would be beneficial, but because we're considering our main jam, our go-to in any sort of combat scenario, or potential kit for out of combat, we're going to want to keep our spells either reactionary ones we can use as bonus actions, or some options that if we find out, hey, we can't charm this creature, or we can't get close enough to them, that we can still sort of use these spell slots to help our team. So sleep is very thematic, and I think it is kind of nice to charm a large area of people. Maybe we can find out who is the weaklings among a crowd by throwing a sleep out there first, seeing who drops, and then be able to go in there and hypnotic mind or hypnotic gaze the ones that seem to be a little more tough or potent. We're doing the expeditious retreat because we don't have a lot of things to do with the bonus action. One thing that we can do expeditious retreat is a bonus action that lets us use a bonus action on subsequent turns to take the dash action. That'll let us move 60 feet and then be able to still do a charm on that individual. Then if they get hit, or if we're going to leave them from being charmed, we can use a bonus action to move away from them. Because they don't have reactions when they're in that dazed state, we could move 5 feet away, then they stop being dazed, and then continue our 55 feet of movement further away to get close to somebody else to use the same. We will be using mage armor for our armor class calculations, and then have options for shield and absorb elements if we get hit by attacks, somebody trying to free that individual that we have charmed, or hit us with fire or other elemental hazards. We have a reaction that we can still use our spell slots under. And then the last sort of options are if you have to duke it out with somebody, chromatic orb, single target damage, thunderwave for AoE damage, and then charm person if we need to resort to using that to maybe get more people under our command. One thing that I would look at with higher levels is things that use our concentration. Because Hypnotic Gaze does not use our concentration, we can maintain 2 effects at once. So we could get like Hold Person, where we cast Hold Person on one individual, then Charm another. Then effectively, as long as we're able to maintain that 5 feet and maintain our concentration, we've got 2 people held down. That's the base I would build off of. For cantrips, we have Message, Prestidigitation, and Mind Sliver. Mind Sliver being able to it's an enchantment spell, which is great, but it's able to do a little bit of damage, but also soften up their save by a d4. So if you're trying to go for the big boss, maybe you take a round to set up the Mind Sliver, then you move in and do the charming effect to have at least a extra d4 better chance of getting that person charmed. So at level 4, I would recommend taking Metamagic Adept as our level 4 feature for our ASI. We already have an 18 intelligence, so we don't have to worry about our intelligence save getting much higher, so we can worry about that at level 8 if we get to it. But with Metamagic, it gives us 2 sorcery points that we can spend on Metamagics, and we know 2 Metamagics from the Sorcerer class. The Metamagic options that I would recommend are Quicken Spell. So at level 4, when you cast a spell that requires a casting time of 1 action, you can spend 2 sorcery points to change this to 1 bonus action for this casting. So we get 2 sorcery points from the feat. This will use both our sorcery points, but if we're in battle, maybe be able to use our Hypnotic Gaze and then use this Quicken spell to cast Hypnotic Pattern and be able to target one person with a control spell and then a group of people with a control spell. Or something simple like a Hold Person, something damaging, or another buff spell like Haste, maybe. The other thing is Subtle Spell. So you'll be able to cast a spell without any vocal or somatic components, delving into that caster a little bit further, that charmer type persona. We might be able to do this out of combat to use Charm Person on a group of enemies, or be able to even subtle cast things like Prestidigitation to make sounds from other areas, or be able to misdirect or mislead the enemies. This is also good in scenarios where it's a wizard on wizard battle, if you want to try to circumvent them being able to use counterspell on you. You can subtle spell so that there's no visible somatic or verbal components that would show that a spell is being cast. You can sneakily. So I would say for roleplay purposes, Subtle Spell is very nice. Quickened is definitely the one we would want to use in combat. Just keep in mind we only get 2 sorcery points a day, so if you do Subtle once, you can't do Quickened after that. With that, it also does bring us to what we could do as multi-class options. And there's 2 main suggestions I'm going to have for this particular class in this particular build. Anything Sorcerer, right off the bat. Draconic Sorcerer would be my top pick, but really any of them fit. Any of them will work. Draconic Sorcerer gives you the armor class calculation, so you can use your armor class is equal to 13 plus your dexterity modifier. It's essentially just a all-the-time mage armor. And then you also get 1 hit point for every level that you take in this class. So you get an extra hit point on top of it, which would be nice. I would say three levels. 3 levels would give you enough sorcery points. It would bump you up from the 2 that you have to 5 total. So it's really just to get more sorcery points, so you can use your action to do your Hypnotic Gaze and then more quickened options with your bonus action with the meta magic that you have. Alternatively, if you are playing a particularly deadly campaign, 1 to 3 levels of Artificer are really good. And the reason that Artificer is great, if we come to this multi-class section, you need at least a 13 intelligence, and you pick up all of these proficiencies for just taking 1 level. Light, medium, and shields, as well as Thieves' Tools and Tinker Tools. So being able to take medium armor and shields means that if you pick up half plate when you start your Artificer tinkering, you could have a 19 armor class on your wizard all the time. You could have the shield that we give you 2, and then the half plate armor, which is 15 plus dex max of 2. And we have a 14 dexterity, so that medium armor is always going to be as good as it. So 19 armor class wizard is pretty sweet. But I would go one step farther and recommend maybe considering 3 levels into Artificer. That does give you your item infusions as well as a specialist, and either artillerist could be good, but it does require a little bit more setup. But battlesmith is great because battlesmith will give us something else we can do with our bonus action. The steel defender. In combat, the defender shares your initiative count, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is the dodge action, unless you use your bonus action on your turn to command it to take another action. So, you could have a steel defender with you that could use your bonus action. You could manipulate that to attack, to use its action to help other players with other things. It would then give you basically another body to manipulate while you are using your Hypnotic Gaze. The one thing that would be very interesting, if you're starting a campaign at a higher level, you could take your 2 level of wizards right off the bat, and then take the 3 levels of battlesmith, and already have this build set up right out of the gate. Then you would be able to use your bonus action to manipulate the steel defender, and then have your main action to use your Hypnotic Gaze. Your steel defender can do things like attack and has a force powered rend, but also has a reactionary ability where it can prevent other creatures from, or give other creatures disadvantage on attack rolls against you or an ally. So that could be a good synergy to have a protector while you maintain somebody in that sort of incapacitated state, then have your steel defender beside you acting as a buffer to keep other things away from you, to prevent them from knocking you away. I think that is a very cool sort of combination between the 2 of them. What do you guys think? Would you run a enchantment wizard? Do you think Hypnotic Gaze would fall off at higher levels, or do you think it's a little more gimmicky, or did I miss something along the way? Love for you guys to tell me in those comment sections below. That's what I have for our Fortuna for today. I do appreciate you guys watching. You guys have a great one.